Hello! Welcome to part 3 of the Game Boy Extravaganza, and this time we shall be looking at alternate hardware models. So away with you, giant chunky original Nintendo Game Boy, as we bring in the Game Boy Pocket, introduced by Nintendo in 1996, I believe, so about 7 years after the release of the original Game Boy. That's how popular it was. 7 years later, they were still making hardware that played the same goddamn games. That, my friends, is success. So let's bring the other one back and we can see the physical size differences. As you can see, it's shorter and it's not as wide, but also it's much thinner and, perhaps most importantly of all, a lot lighter. This bugger takes 4 AA batteries, remember? This one only takes 2 AAAs, so much lighter on the old electricity cells. On the downside, slightly less battery life as a result. In fact, considerably less from what I recall. You get about 15 to 20 hours out of the original Game Boy. This one will give you about 10 or 12. But hey, you can carry it with you a lot easier and also fit it in a human pocket. Incidentally, the very early models apparently didn't have the power light, the old LED, but they put it on due to public demand later, which is a slightly odd thing. Don't know if I'm that excited by the idea of a red LED shining in my eyes when playing on something, but hey, that's just me. Other physical differences for the old hardware: they redesigned the external socket, which is a bit of a shame because it meant all your old stuff wouldn't work. This one's just a bit taller and fatter. And that's it, apart from the obviously far superior screen. Not only is it physically slightly larger, but it's much closer to black on white as opposed to dark green on slightly less dark green, so much easier to see in low light conditions and in general, really. And also, perhaps most importantly of all, far less of the old ghosting and motion blur, which is very nice. I hadn't actually realised until recently how much better the screen was on one of these. I hadn't played on one till I got this one free somewhere a few years ago. It is a bit knocked about. I apologise for that. There's slight damage at the tops of the screen, but you can't really see it on camera due to shadows. Haha! Got away with that one. Good job I didn't mention it. So, in order to make a good comparison of the screens, we shall need a control game, and that will be Bomb Jack on this ridiculous old rip-off cartridge. You gotta love these things. 21 in 1! Yeah, but half the games are repeated. Look, Bomb Jack, which is also the same as Bomb Man, and Fly Jack. Deary me, you are such liars. Put the same game on there a few times and pretend it's a different one. So, let's stick it in the old original Game Boy and have us some Bomb Jack excitement. Bomb Jack, incidentally, is an old arcade game where a man with a funny Viking helmet flies around and picks up bombs in front of different locations whilst avoiding weird enemies. And if you pick up the bombs in the order that they fizz, you get more points. And that, my friends, is Bomb Jack. Here he is. Such excite. Start game. Go for it. This is quite a good version, if I remember. Level 01. Here he is, in all his Bomb-Jacky glory. And there he is ghosting. As you can see, the enemies are a bit sort of flashy. You can't make out the frames of animation when he's running. You can't make out flames of animation either, but that's because there aren't any. I shall jump around here. I can't actually make out which bombs are fizzing through the viewfinder, so I shall just jump around like an idiot. There's also a weird game mechanic in this, whereby there are little men who walk around on the platforms and they fall off the edge and turn into floating snails. I'm pretty sure that's not based on real life. Level 2, we don't care. Anyway, just get that in your head, him running about, ghosty, and we shall now have a look at it on the old Game Boy Pocket. Ready, steady, obvious rip-off cartridge. Already looks a lot clearer even from the Nintendo floaty logo. And down to old Bomb Jack here. If you press select, you get a funny noise and get to see all the rest. I wonder actually if it does have the same game on here several times, or it just, links to the code of the original. I'm not really sure there's any way I can tell. So let's just start the game. And you will see much clarity. Oh yeah. Much nicer, innit? Really didn't realise just... Whoa! Where did you come from, you big swine? Answer? I've got no idea. Probably Hull. Anyway, let's run around on the bottom. As you can see, you can actually make out the frames of animation just about, so far betterer. I was genuinely impressed, just never had an idea. I always thought it was just, it's the Game Boy but smaller. Didn't realise it was actually superior on the old visuals front. So well done, Game Boy Pocket. Now, if only you had some sort of backlight so we could actually see you in the bloody dark, or perhaps just in strong light when you can't get into a perfect position. Well, Nintendo of Japan, at the very least, decided to solve this problem with a version that was only released in Japan, in 1998, in fact, and it is the Game Boy Light. As you can see, it's very silvery, this one at least anyway. It's gone back to AA batteries, of which it takes 2. It's got all the same ports on it other than that than the Game Boy Pocket, I believe, but has an extra slot on the top for the old screen, off, on, and on light. Yes, it has a light in it. That's why it's called the Gameboy Light. And it uses a kind of electroluminescence rather than sort of obvious LEDs or bulbs, so works very nicely indeed. Screen, same size as the Pocket, I believe. Yep, that just about works. Let's put this in and demonstrate. So we'll just have it on normal first, without the old light on. You can't quite make this out on camera, but the screen has a sort of weird, slightly sparkly effect when you have it without the light on. Bombjack, go for it. Battery life, incidentally, you'll get about 12 to 15 hours if you do have the light on, sorry, and about 20 with the light off. So if you're actually playing it in good light, this will probably give you, as good a battery life as the original Game Boy, whilst using nowhere near as many batteries and actually being able to fit in your pocket. So, start. As you can see, it looks very similar to the old Pocket. But now, light. And it hasn't come on. That's a slight worry. Don't break now, I'm making a video. Ah, there we go. Slightly green tinge and proper lighting. I'm going to actually turn all the lights off and show you how effective this is in the dark. Are you ready? It's going to be exciting. Jump cut. So here we are. Here's level 2, and in all it's actually being able to be seen in the dark glory. This is now a device you could quite happily play with under the bedclothes, and your parents wouldn't realise you're staying up all night playing video games, and that's why you failed all your exams. Is it supposed to sound like that? Or is that the cartridge being weird because it's a knockoff one? That's absolutely horrible. Off! Off! Ah. Jump cut to point out that the Game Boy Light is slightly taller than the Game Boy Pocket, in case you didn't know. So, looking back at the line, well, they do objectively really get better as it goes along, I suppose. I've got a soft spot for the original old Game Boy, but, I've got big hands and it's slightly chunkier and therefore easier for me to hold. But frankly, the others aren't uncomfortable to hold and the screens are a lot better, and that one bloody lights up, for God's sake. So I think we can quite clearly say the Game Boy Light is the king of the original Game Boy line. It is such a shame that it was never released outside Japan. But there we go, such is life. So, join us later for part 4 of the Extravaganza, where I shall be looking at the Game Boy camera and the Game Boy printer, I think, which are frankly slightly odd accessories, as you will discover. Or maybe I'll do something else entirely different just to confuse you. Ha! Subscribe for more. I was going through all the rip-off old cartridges I've got, and I found this beautiful one here, where the plastic has discoloured to a weird beige on the front, probably left out in a window and made cheaper than a real cartridge. And also really weird artwork of like a metal teardrop teacher pretending to shoot himself in the head, and a really craply drawn Mega Man. Also this amazing one where you have to switch games by pressing a button on the cartridge. High quality. Somebody appears to have sort of chewed the top off as well at some point. I don't know if that was so it fit in one of the cases or what, I don't know. But most intriguingly, oh my god, I didn't know I had this. A proper Game Boy cartridge with the sticker taken off. What do you reckon it is? I am going to guess at Tetris, or maybe WWF Superstars, as they seem to be the most common. But let us find out. Place your bets now. And, oh, it's corrupt. That's not a good start. Has it got dirty contacts or something? Doesn't look too bad. Let's try that again. Nope. Maybe we will never find out. It will forever remain a mystery. Let's try it in the older colour here. Not the colour of the Pocket. Oh my god! Yes, we're straight in on this one. Maybe I need to clean the contacts on the old light. Oh, it's Super Mario Land 2. Oh, I completed that back in the day. It's a very good game. Well, if you correctly guessed that, give yourself a pat on the back, and don't bother telling anyone because they'll never believe you.